Welcome to Guitar Intelligence. My special guest today, Brian Ruskin. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm going to play this piece for you here.
Very nice.
Thanks, man.
So it's an original piece?
Yeah.
What's that one called?
It's kind of the titles have been changed over the years because it has words and stuff. But right now, I think it's called Still Small Voice. Yeah.
Now, do you play them differently depending on whether you're singing or playing them by yourself? Or are you
well, it is that form. Like if I would do that, I could go into the singing verse off the bat, or I could play through that form once and then sing it, play through, come back in halfway through and finish it out. Almost like a jazz form. Some of my tunes, even though they're rock, they have little, not the typical verse chorus kind of thing, you know.
More like a head, and then
kind of like a head, yeah.
Maybe a bridge.
But it's kind of, it's kind of fun to play over the changes on it.
Yeah. Well, that one's, because that was, I would say that sounds like you know what I mean? There's jazzy elements, but it's probably uniquely you a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Should we play something together?
Yes.
You know, last time we were on Zoom, we had some latency issues. And that blows. That's the one thing about the internet, right? Is it's connecting us all, but we're just a quarter note off.
Right. So for all you people listening, we're playing from Brett's in California, and I'm in Shawnee, Kansas, and we're going to attempt to play together online.
Let's go for it. Do you want to try Blue and Green by Miles Davis?
I wonder if it would be cool to... you mind if I kind of bring it in and you kind of come in?
Sure.
Next time around, let's see. Kind of establish the groove.
Maybe, can you move your mic a little bit so I can see your hand? I might need it for reference.
Much better hearing you today. Yeah, like I can actually hear both of us in there, and you know, yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad
Yesterday was kind of a nightmare on that. So you can go ahead and delete that other thing.
Yeah, it was funny. I was, you know, the latency thing. I noticed that you were one quarter note behind me, and then when I at one point I skipped a beat and came in, and it seemed like it fixed us a little bit, you know. Because I wasn't sure if you were hearing it. That's the thing about this this internet thing, right?
Yeah, I did hear it like that a little bit, but you know, for what it is.
Anyway, blue and green. So a question, because we've discussed this song, but the one chord that we didn't really discuss is the E7 flat 13, because I just think of that as a 7 sharp 5. I assume that's kind of your mindset on that chord?
I think it's fully altered. Any of those alterations can work on that. Flat 9, sharp 5, flat 5. Like, and that's kind of, yeah. And that with alterations, a lot of times, that's kind of can be the case. I mean, maybe there's, you know, exceptions, but see, we're kind of, wait. Super Locrian.
And what's the formula for the Super Locrian? Is that a melodic minor scale?
That's a 7th mode of the melodic minor.
Okay.
That's what they call the altered scale.
Yeah. Yeah. So because you know
it has every 1, flat 9, sharp 9, 3rd, sharp 4, sharp 5, 7, 1.
Because I was thinking, you know, an E7, if you're a piano player, you could play. You could have root 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, and 13, and that's a scale. That's 7 notes. Hey, balloons! Look at that. So what are the voicings that you use? Because do you think of it as a one?
I just kind of do an E7 and maybe I'll alter. I mean, you know, maybe I won't. Sometimes I might just be playing stuff. I don't always throw every alteration possible in, you know. If I'm... That's straight E7. But it sounds nice. I mean...
I tend to go with like an augmented...
I like that. Yeah.
And not only that, because then I can use my whole tone... My whole tone licks. I love the whole tone scale, and I used to, you know, when I was playing jazz gigs, when we'd play blues, sometimes I'd do a full 12 bars of whole tone. You know what I mean? Whole tone off the 1, and then you just shift it a half step when you go to the 4 chord. And I'm a very kind of visual. I'm a pattern person. You know what I mean? So when I'm looking at like whole tone, you know, obviously you have the like Danny Elfman, like Simpsons, you know what I mean? But you also have this, what I call the H shape, where the, so I'm going like G, A, and then, only I'm hammering the, and then straight across. That way you have.
Oh yeah, I like
it. You know what I mean?
Like it.
Another useful thing I found with that shape that was kind of cool is that when you're playing like if you're playing an E9 or an E7 or whatever, and you have this, you ever use like to make a 13, like a 9 and 13? Well, that H shape, because then you have the flat 7, the root, the third, what is that, the 13, and then the root, and then the 9. So that's the thing, is I like these, you know. I've always been a pattern guy.
It's a pattern instrument. It's just easy to get into that, and sometimes I have to catch myself constantly if I'm kind of trying to study and break. Like, wait a minute, what are you playing? You know, because it's just, the guitar lends itself to patterns. If you do a major scale and you can move it up, but on piano it's like the polar opposite. The patterns are totally different in the way the instrument's laid out.
You don't have the symmetry. There's a different form of symmetry, of course, on a piano, but on the guitar, it's nice the way you can. It's like kind of like when you go through that Slavinsky's thesaurus of melodic ideas or whatever, and and he says play in every key, and it's like, well, if the lick is, and then if you want to play. If you want to play in every key, you just move up one fret at a time.
Well, so back to your subject, your boy Jay Udaly, you know, who studied with John Elliott, and Rod talks about it, you know, and yeah, you could look at those patterns, but he would go, no, what's the interval and what are the notes of every inversion? Kind of made him recite everything, and you know, people like, oh no, okay, but it pays off. It really does. It's work, and work. Yeah, the work will pay off. And then eventually it's just kind of there. You kind of see it. I've been awful at it, but I'm still pecking a little bit at a time, try to get a little better at those things. But
yeah, well, guitar players, we like, there was this, when I would be doing jazz gigs, when it was just me and another guitar player, then I would write out the charts, and I would write out songs that were in E flat minor. I would transpose them to E minor because it's a guitar-friendly key, right? Mm-hmm. And then when we played with, you know, we'd bring a bass player on board or whatever, and they'd be like, why you got all these, why'd you change the keys of the songs? You know what I mean? And I'm like, I keep getting the emojis from my MacBook. I was saying, well, because a piano player wrote this song, and it's an E flat minor, because E flat minor is an easy key on the piano. It's just the black keys, you know what I mean? That's the E flat minor pentatonic. So why make it more difficult on your instrument when they wrote it to be easy on theirs? You know what I mean? And like a lot of horn players play in B flat, because B flat is like the key of C for us. You know what I mean? So they wrote it on the easiest possible key for themselves. So I would often transpose things to guitar-friendly keys just because it made more sense. Instead of, granted, you could play it, but you're losing the open strings, and you're losing a lot of things that are beneficial as a guitar player. Harmonics, you know?
Yeah, it's just, a different thing. Like the Kansas City jazz scene, like, no, you play it in any key, period, and don't bitch about it. You know, it's like, what? You know. But, and that's just kind of how, you know, the scene is.
Yeah,
but,
it is. It's, yeah.
And it's good to learn, and it's nice when we can be guitar players and go to open keys or whatever, and do that.
I think
and some of them ring nice. Some songs just they have a nice sound in those different keys, you know.
Yeah, I could
Just
see
the way
that too.
I don't know. Yeah.
Well, so your specialty really is what you've been striving to achieve. I consider myself more of a essentially recording artist. It's like all of the information that I absorb, I document through recordings of songs. You know what I mean? Like I have a song with a Japanese minor scale or a Hungarian minor or a whatever, or I'm learning chromatic mediants and film score music, and I want to represent it. You know, I want to figure out how to use it to create with. But my memorization skills are just the worst. You know what I mean? Especially if I was going to play like a set of songs. I could play a set of my own songs, but I'd have to learn them first.
Yeah.
I mean? And so improvisation is definitely a check in the plus column. And but what you've been striving to do is just be a kind of a Joe Pass guy, right? I mean, down that path.
Yeah, not so much really. I mean, there's elements of that, trying to fill things up by myself in my own way, but I don't, you know, really copy so much of his things.
Well, I mean, solo guitarist, jazz guitarist, yeah.
But yeah, there's the finger style elements of people, you know, Tommy Emmanuel and stuff. Don't really try to copy anything he's doing, but those are things where. Let me play one more little bit here. When I moved back from Texas, it was summer of 2000. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment off 75th and Neiman. So I'm just going to play a little excerpt of this 1-bedroom apartment piece.
Is that what the song's called?
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, 1-bedroom apartment, bachelor life again, looking in the classified for women, seeking men.
When you start singing, it almost got a hint of, who's that singer? Tom Waits.
Right, I've got that before on that one.
Really?
Yeah.
I love Tom Waits.
Anyway, but yeah, so kind of that little root fifth. I got a few quirky things that kind of go in that direction, but trying to get a little bit of freedom with the.
Your singing voice always reminded me of Jimi Hendrix. Does
anyone
ever say that?
You told me that when you were in town,
you,
like somewhere around that time when we were back from Texas. I think I was at the Westport Art Fair, and you had told me that.
Yeah, it always has kind of reminded me of his kind of tonality or his vibe. I hope that's a compliment, because it is a high compliment coming from me.
Yes.
You know, one of the things, I guess the way that I write is I tend to have pretty straightforward rhythms, but just like there's always some sort of twist in what's going on musically, chord-wise, you know what I mean? But it's like things that I like to do is like might play like a so like a major 9 to a minor 9, and kind of go like a Lydian, E Lydian to E Dorian. like that, and I like sometimes I like stuff like where I'll do like one time I did a song where it was 12-bar blues, but it was all major 7 chords because nobody ever does major 7 chords in blues, and I was doing like if I did an A, it'd be A Lydian, and let's try like A Lydian, and then we go to D Lydian for the 4 chord. Then back to A Lydian. And then E Lydian to D Lydian to A Lydian and then E Lydian. So I like stuff like that, little musical experiments.
Yeah.
To where it has a consistent, like it's Lydian all the way through, you know what I mean? Because you're soloing Lydian over every single chord.
I got something a little similar, and I was playing a little restaurant that was down in Mission off of Lamar and Johnson Drive, and it was called Melby's. They were trying to do a little gourmet restaurant. And so I kind of improvised this chord progression, and there was a visual pattern. I was kind of doing little, F to E, I do that twice, kind of like A, A, B, A. But on the bridge, I did this visual pattern where major 7th, and then I'd go up and do a major 7th off the E string.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd just keep
like
this pattern. I just do this.
And major thirds.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah.
Well, that's the Coltrane matrix, essentially. Everyone always wonders about that matrix.
It has that. It's a little bit similar, yeah. But and then it was kind of getting back to that question of Max Bennett, of being able to, being able to play it wherever, and taking a little time to learn that, And so originally it was like an instrumental to improvise over, kind of fun. And because the restaurant was no longer there, I called it Melby Not. And then I wrote a vocal version called Good Old Days, which, and it was the challenge of keeping the melody kind of still while those chords are moving all over the place, trying to keep, so it came out kind of cool. But.
Yeah, that's the most interesting thing to me is when there's... I just got over diatonic a long time ago. It's hard for me when I'm composing. You know what I mean? The diatonic thing just, I guess, run its course. If you write enough songs, then eventually.
I don't know, man. I mean,
sometimes you can find some good stuff.
If you can find something really simple in diatonic that's original sounding and good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if you look at I play retirement things. You Are My Sunshine, simplest version,
yeah.
and I love it. I look, and I've kind of got where I like old-timey stuff like that, real simple, because I thought if you can write something simple with those same 3 chords that's new, that's kind of...
Well, that's like a holy grail thing, because I'm always on a search, and it's like...
So it's like being open to anything, really,
For sure.
Like making that heart connection of music with people, and... So yeah, it just depends. Language for all occasions, right? Hey, let's see. You got those charts handy? You want to try something adventurous?
I don't know how adventurous.
It's not terribly hard. It's not like it's more a rock thing, but it's just got some. I think you might have fun playing over this.
Let's see what you got. Let me. So what is it?
It's the one called Vicious Circle.
Okay, let me find it. So.
And I just loop the repeat thing. Don't worry about the.
Oh, the first part.
Just that whole. It's kind of that form. It's a like similar thing where it's got this. Yeah, it would just be kind of jamming over that.
Let me.
I'll bring it around once so you hear a feel, and then kind of.
Okay, let's check it out. Well, you want to, while we got time, because I got students coming up, you want to, why don't you play another, one of your solo pieces, and then we'll.
Well, I'm gonna play this once through like a little solo arrangement.
Okay.
I actually kind of worked out the vocal melody on guitar, and so
I was gonna say we could finish out with this one, but let me play through. Let me play through it real quick.
or if you want, like I'll count this. Let me play through it twice as a solo piece. I'm gonna play through that,
Okay.
and then I'm gonna start comping rhythm, and then you come in and join me
Okay.
if you want.
And what key
You'll
are
get
we
a
in?
feel for it. It's a B minor
B
thing.
minor, I see.
But it changes certain qualities. But you'll see. Just kind of give a listen and
Okay.
watch the first couple times, because I'm going to do a little improv on the second time, and then I'm going to go to rhythm the third time and let you come in.
Just give me a
on it.
nod.
Okay.
I'll do my best to do
All right.
something.
You ready?
No, but go.
All right. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's kind of the basic idea, but anyway, it's one of those things. Check this out. Like, you come home and you're working on little patterns. Before I knew any of the chords, I just had this little shape thing where I was like, it was that kind of a thing. And then years later, like when we were in Austin, I started like, oh, okay, it's a B minor, E minor. You know, I started figuring out the chords, and then I realized, oh, I can use, you know, like the major sevens, kind of incorporate on the walk up. But so it's kind of evolved over the years. And then recently I kind of worked out the little, you know, around the circle once again, you know, kind of working out the melody on. So it's been fun it's kind of a fun progression to play.
I've always thought that was interesting too, about how your songs evolve, like how you'll take a song and, you know, write it, or you know, it'll be born at some point, and then it continues to grow and evolve for decades sometimes.
Yeah, and it took.
And there's like is there a stopping point? Like and even after you record a song, does it continue to evolve after that?
Well, your playing evolves in your approach to music, so that's just kind of studying different aspects of music. But the song was technically finished. When I moved back from Texas, I was teaching up North Oak Traffic Way at the old CNC Drum and Guitar. This is about 2000, 2001. And I remember I was experimenting with it, and there was some awkwardness, like I was working, and I thought, oh, you don't have to do that part. And I took away something, and like, oh, I felt like, okay, the song is complete. It's written, the composition, the arrangement. That was just that one section. But as far as my playing and approach, you know, you're always going to be growing as a player, and you might put different flavors to something, which is fine, you know. But yeah, that was probably 10 years before I called it finished. You know, it was like an idea I had on the way down to Texas called "Things Are Just Too Good to Sing the Blues." And somebody gave me a guitar when I was moving back, and he showed me a little, I think he was doing a little thing. And I'd been kind of working on those little syncopation And so I saw, oh, I'm kind of getting the puzzle piece of what I pictured on this tune 5.5 years later.
Yeah.
But it took me, and I didn't have the chops to play the song. That's another thing Holdsworth said, like that Waltz for Bela I've been working on. Like Holdsworth said, just because I wrote the song doesn't mean I can play it very well. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it takes a while to work and figure out, you know,
That's what
how
Bob
to
Dylan,
play well over it.
they asked Bob Dylan what he thought of Jimi Hendrix's take on All Along the Watchtower, and he said, that's the definitive version. He goes, I try to play it like Jimmy now because his version is,
That's awesome.
that's the version, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's interesting because my, the way I create, I guess, is that it's always, maybe, I don't know if it's impatience or I'm always on to the next thing. So the longest it takes me usually is like 3 or 4 days. You know what I mean? Like I just write a song, and it's usually like documentation of my progress of what I'm studying. And so it's like I'll compose a song and record it and then be done with it. And like last year I recorded 31 songs in 31 weeks. And the beauty of that, and so it's on to the next thing. So I don't even remember how they go. And then if I ever want to perform, then I usually just go through all of my songs and try to pick like the best 10, you know, to do a 40-minute show or something. But the interesting thing now about last year recording so many songs is that I enjoy listening to them. And you know how sometimes you can be a real stickler about listening to your own stuff because you hear everything that you don't like, you know what I mean? But it's all because I don't remember recording them or writing them or anything, you know what I mean? It happens so fast that I'm like, wow, that's interesting, you know what I mean?
You know what I remember that I could go pull out and listen to and have fun hearing is She's My Heroine, that song. That heavy stuff you were writing when you were in Austin. That's good stuff.
I knocked out a lot of songs that, you know, I've always just been very prolific. And just because my thing was always, I always figured that kind of like albums, you know, when someone releases an album, an artist releases an LP, then there's always like 1 or 2 songs that are just, you know, the best songs on there. And there's almost inevitably filler. If you listen to Fleetwood Mac or any great band, maybe not so much like Zeppelin, because almost all their songs, all killer, no filler, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I always, whenever I compose, whenever I write, then I'll always write in sets of 10 songs. So I go 10 song cycles, and then I know that out of those 10, I'm going to get 2 that are like the best ones. And so like last year, like I said, I did 3 10-song cycles, and then out of that, then I'm going to have, you know, potentially a solid EP. You know what I mean? From the best. You ever
do you have ideas that you were stuck on that didn't ever flesh out, or you have little ideas that you go?
Occasionally, but not normally, because it seems like I just. It's just I get in a writing mood, so it's almost like input and output. You know, Bob Dylan would always say, if you know, there's no such thing as writer's block. There's only input and output. And if you don't have any output, it's because you need more input. You know what I mean? And for me, it's always, because I'm always teaching, you know, I got 40 students and they're learning everything from bluegrass to Slayer to Taylor Swift. So I'm absorbing all of that, you know, against my will. But I'm very passionate about it. I want to do the best Taylor Swift or
That
Slayer.
sounds like a new band named Slayer Swift.
There you go. And then the other thing is that I love learning, you know, exotic scales, new, you know, like when I got into chromatic mediants when I was studying film composition. And so I'm always studying, and then once I hit on something like, oh, I got to write something using this. And you know about the chromatic mediants, that film score thing is essentially just, and it's weird because you know how blues has its own rules, jazz has its own rules. Every genre kind of has genre-specific things that they do. And in film scores, they have like, if you like, let's just take a C chord. If you play a C, then you can play a third away from a C, which a major third would be E, right? You know, E minor if you're diatonic. But you have these options of playing C major to E major, right? And that's a...
Right.
Or you could also go C minor to C major, or sorry, to E major, or C minor to E minor. So there's your 4 different versions of that. Is that 4? You got major to major, minor to minor, major to minor, and minor to major, right? And then you could also do it off of a minor third. So you could do C major to E major, you know, or C minor to... And then, you know, all of the 4 different combinations of that. So that's all of the chromatic medians. As you've got third, major third away, and you can do major or minor chords, and a minor third away, major or minor chords. And then from the next chord, you can do the same thing. So if I go, then I can go, you know, I could, from the E, I can go to a major or a minor third and make it major or minor. And the fascinating thing, and you can hear the kind of movie soundtrack sound to that, you know what I mean? And it's almost kind of like the Coltrane Matrix, where you're moving majors and minor thirds and minors and major thirds. And it's fascinating when you're improvising over that or creating lines, because they kind of take unexpected turns, you know what I mean? So if you're playing like a... You know what I mean? Like major, that was major arpeggios and minor thirds. You can almost hear like a Back to the Future. You know, Back to the Future was all octonic, the octatonic scale. And so that got me, you know, because I study film scores a lot too. So I was studying Back to the Future, found out it's the only film score that's entirely based on the octatonic scale. So I was like, I got to compose something using the octatonic scale, you know what I mean? So that's really what it is just me learning new things and then figuring out a way, how can I compose using these same, you know, devices that Hans Zimmer or Danny Elfman or Lemmy Kilmister or whoever it is, you know what I mean? Whatever happened. A lot of times, you know, I'm sure you've had this happen where you'll be teaching a song to a student and you'll be like, oh, that's clever, you know what I mean? Like, I never thought of that, whatever it is. And then next thing you know, it's leading you to some sort of new composition, you know?
Yeah.
Anyway, so speaking of students, I've got some students scheduled today. So why don't you, let's wrap it up with, you got another original piece you can play? Anything else you'd like to play?
I'm sure, yeah. Or, you know what? I might do something. I might do a standard real quick.
Sure. Do whatever you like, Brian. You take us out.
Let's see.
Hey,
that.
here you go.
All right. Thanks, Brett.
Yay!